I just don't know what McLaren's thinking. Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today's something a little bit different. It's a new series that I kind of want to try out called Rides and Rants, where we're just gonna go take a drive together, spend some quality time together. You know, I feel like a lot of times with the vlogs and stuff, we're always busy doing some other stuff, so we never get like a one-on-one to actually just like talk. And yeah, so let's drive around. I'm gonna rant about some stuff, and today's victim that I'm gonna rant about is McLaren. McLaren's the talk of everybody this week because they just announced their new car, the McLaren 750S, which is the full replacement and all new car that's replacing the 720S. And there's been a lot of back and forth, like not like mixed like feedback towards McLaren for what they did with this car. And for me, I personally was very disappointed. And I know y'all are here just like, my opinion is so important on the car matter, but I know even just one person might care about my opinion on this, so I thought I would just share it, put my little 2 cents out there, and just share why I think McLaren's really dropping the ball right now. But also I want to give a reason why I think they're dropping the ball and what might be causing it. Yeah, let's get into talking about the 750S. 750S is a car that McLaren just announced about 2 days ago, I think it was, and this car is pretty much still based on the 720S platform. It is, I believe, 30% different as far as like different panels that they use and different components. It has about 30 more horsepower and 22 pound-foot of torque extra. So now it has an output of 740 and I think 586 torque. I'll put up the numbers on the screen. And so it's still absolutely amazing car, insanely powerful. It has a couple little bit different aero. They put a little USB-C port exhaust on the back. The problem that initially lies when they announced it was it's a 720S just with a painted bumper and like one different fender and like the tail off a 765 LT. It's pretty much no different in any way. It just makes a little more power. It's kind of like an Aventador to an Aventador S. Like the Aventador S made like 20 more horsepower. And even though, but the thing is, Lamborghini didn't claim that that's a whole different car. It's just a refresh. And that's one like topic I want to hit on. I feel like McLaren, they've always had an issue of releasing new cars all the time, and it just ruins the values of the cars that came before them. Like the 720S, I already feel like is a huge bargain because you can get them for the same price as the used Huracan, around like the $220,000 range. But now with this coming out, it's gonna put those like even lower, and a lot of people with 720Ss probably aren't gonna be very happy that their value of their car is now just totally dropped. Yeah, they just come out with new cars all the time, where it's like, I feel like this car would have been so much better suited if it was just talked about as a refresh rather than a new model. And it was also hyped up so much, saying like, we're gonna break these benchmarks, like this is revolutionary, this is gonna change everything. And they put on like these big words, like hyping up this car so much. But then it's just a 720S with a painted bumper and 20 more horsepower. So, and just like little upgrades here and there, which you would expect from a refresh. Like, you know, you get Apple CarPlay now, and like just see all these just tiny little different like nuances. And they have the new like switches up on the top of the dash, which I'm personally not a fan of. I think those kind of make the car look a little cheap. I thought that when I saw them in the Natura, and I think that it is now. It just looks a little bulky and plasticky, so I'm not too big of a fan of the switches on the dashboard. What I'm getting at is they hyped this car up way too much for what it actually is, and I feel like that's where a lot of people's disappointment came from. If McLaren would have just said, hey, we're refreshing the 720, it's getting more power, it's going to be faster, it's going to have more torque, like you can get Apple CarPlay's upgrade, I could see a lot of people with their 720Ss being like, awesome, I want to upgrade to it. But now I really don't see why people would want to go to this, especially if they can just spend like $30,000, $40,000 more and go to a 765 LT, which has more power, better aero. Personally, I think it looks so much better. And the only thing you're missing out is not Apple CarPlay, which they're probably going to give a software update for anyway. I just don't see the point of this car, or the way that they presented it. I don't see the point of it, you know? The hype was just built up too much for how little we got in return. And I think a big problem with that is, I'm not sure if you know this, like you can look up some headlines, I'll even throw up some right here. McLaren's not doing very hot financially. They actually lose money on a lot of their cars, and they actually are in a lot of hot water financially, and they've had to get a lot of third-party investment to come in and help them fund their R&D. So they're really not doing very hot, and I don't think this car is going to inspire many like legacy McLaren owners to want to spend the money to upgrade, because it's not much of an upgrade. Why would someone want to sell their 720S for $220,000 and then go spend another $130,000 extra to go get the exact same car with a painted bumper and 20 more horsepower, 30 more horsepower? You just can't expect them to do that, especially when they get the exact same car. I've also heard people say like, well, that's just like what Lamborghini does. That's just whatever, like, because Lamborghini came out with a million variants of the Aventador. But also McLaren's done the same thing with the 720. They have the Sabre and the Senna, which are both based on the 720, where Lamborghini had the Scion and the Centenario and the Veneno, all based on the Aventador, and then they've had a million different special edition trims. Which McLaren hasn't done the special edition, but the difference between Lamborghini and McLaren is Lamborghini's never claimed that those were different cars. Like, Lamborghini has never come out and said that the Aventador S or the Aventador SV or even the SVJ are completely different cars. They're just refreshed, like, editions of the car. Where it's like, McLaren was claiming this to be such a different car, and it's groundbreaking and beating the benchmarks and doing all this stuff, where it's like, yeah, but it's just a refresh. Lamborghini never claims all their cars to be like breaking boundaries and do whatever. It's like, is the SV and the SVJ amazing cars? Yes. An SV is actually my dream car. Viola Parsafe SV Roadster. That's been my dream car. That's been saved on my phone for years, and I just want that car so bad. So that is what I'm working towards right now. But here's, I think, the reason why they had to do this. Not that they had to, but the reason why it happened. And we already kind of touched on the point, but it's because they just don't have money. McLaren is struggling financially, so they just don't have money for R&D. They are struggling to just pay the rent and put cars out and build cars. So how do you expect them to spend probably tens of millions of dollars to develop a whole new model? They have to use what they have already spent their money on. And that's exactly the reason why I think this car is so little of a change. And McLaren actually kind of is shooting themselves in the foot. They're not reinvesting into their stuff because, one, they don't have the money, and they probably don't want to take on any more VC, like venture capital, and like keep their ownership, or like risk being sold to another car company. Because I think McLaren and like one other ones are like some of the few like last independent car companies where it's like Volkswagen owns like Audi and Porsche and those people. Like, McLaren isn't owned by anybody, and I think they're trying to keep it that way, but they're shooting themselves in the foot because they don't have the money and the funding to develop something new, and they aren't like collaborating with someone else, kind of like they did with the McLaren Mercedes SLR. They worked with Mercedes to develop that car. So yeah, they just don't have the funding to make something new, so they're stuck in this like rock and a hard place where they have to put out refreshed cars and want to like sound like they're making big innovations, but they don't have the money to innovate. And so they're going to take their car, which the 720 was ahead of its time when it came out. It was an absolutely amazing car, but now a lot of cars are catching up to it. So that they're just going to make it a little bit faster, a little bit of a wider wheelbase, a little bit of like better technology and those sort of things to try to keep it relevant and make it groundbreaking, you know? That's why I think McLaren is doing what they're doing, is they just don't have the money to innovate anything. Especially, that's why like the Artura is very much just a 570S or 600 LT with like a new body and stuff, because that's all they're able to do. They can't change it. That's my thoughts on to why they're doing that. Like, I don't know exactly how they could go about fixing the problem. They really could look into maybe being acquired by somebody, or just getting like taking on more capital, maybe selling like 10% of the company to like Porsche or something that they've done in the past, like Porsche's done to other companies. Then they can hinge on their R&D, or even teaming up with Lotus in some way, even the British brands together. Like, I don't know. The McLaren, but I really don't think the 750S was a good financial move as far as the way that they tried to advertise it. And I really think it's going to shoot themselves in the foot, and they're not going to get the sales that they need to stay afloat. And it's sad for me to say, but I really don't see like much of a bright future for McLaren as it currently sits right now. I think they're going to have to dramatically change in a way for them to stay relevant, or just stay in business, period, or be acquired by somebody. And that's exactly what they don't want to do. Like, I love McLarens. I love driving them. Experiencing them is so fun. I think their designs are like wild and wacky, and like the Senna is like one of the funnest cars I've ever been in. And so I want them to grow and I want them to do better, but they just are doing it wrong. And it pains me to see that, and I really don't wish that upon them, because I want them to do so much better. I'm definitely looking forward to them coming out. Hopefully my opinion gets changed, because if it gets changed, then that just means it's just better, and I will gladly eat my words if the car is so much better than I'm thinking that it isn't. I really hope McLaren proves me wrong, and I want to see them do nothing but succeed and make some absolutely bonker cars that we all get to love and enjoy and see. And like, their designs have always been crazy, and so I want them to succeed more than anything. And so I'll just say, this isn't more me being upset at McLaren, this is me being disappointed in them and wishing that they're able to innovate more. And they need to do what they need to do to put themselves in a position where they can and be the innovative brand that they claim themselves to be. Because right now, they're not being that, and they're shooting themselves in the foot, and their lack of business is really starting to show. They're eventually going to become irrelevant if they don't go out of business first. I want them to be around, and I want the competition, and I want to see cool cars that I get to photograph and get to experience and share with you guys. So that's my rant. I hope you enjoyed the first ride and rants. Just been cruising around. It's a nice chill day here, but I just wanted to get that off my chest, put my little 2 cents out there. But I want to hear your thoughts. I want you to comment down below. Tell me what you think of the 750S. You can tell me if I'm being dumb, if there's something that I missed. I probably got some sort of stats wrong, and you're going to correct me on that, but I really do want to hear your thoughts. I want to start a conversation in the comments, even between you, like all of you guys. Talk to each other, talk to me, like I'll be replying. I want to hear your thoughts, so please comment down below, tell me what you think, and tell me if you liked this format of just driving around, talking, and having a conversation between us, because I think this would be really fun, especially if I can do it with like different cars and whatnot. Like, it'd just be fun to kind of stay up to date together and just experience just having a nice Sunday cruise with one another. So thank you again so much for watching. I really appreciate you. So leave your thoughts down below. Please stay tuned for the next video, because we've been driving around the BMW, and we're actually going to do a full review of this car, because I personally think, speaking of really good cars, I think the X3 M40i is one of the best cars ever made, and I'm going to tell you why in the next video. And then some videos after that, we might have some mods coming, but I'm not going to tell you what. You have to stay tuned for that. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.